The fun of talking Transformers is only equal to the annoyance it has when you are being there.
Once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing tonight, Joe?
Every day I write the book. God, I got a wicked voice. Ugh, feels good to sing, you know what I'm saying?
But you don't write.
That you know of.
You're not the writer in this group. I'm the writer. I'm the one who has
my
novel
name,
cast.
Joe Crazy Writer. I am the writer of the group.
I'm the one with novel cast, which, by the way, drops on Friday.
I'm more of a driver. I'm not really a writer, per se. I'd rather be, driving.
I don't know. Your wife drives.
How come you haven't got me a review copy of your book that you and Dangerous Dan Moore are doing?
Haven't seen you since Christmas.
Oh, likely excuse. You mean I'm going to have to sit here and, my house is slowly sagging from the weight of all these omnibuy I got for you.
You never call. You never write. You never visit.
Hey, I'm trying to save up $100 so I can come over and visit you on WrestleMania.
You work WrestleMania.
Yeah, but if I have $100.
You don't bring me flowers anymore. I'm not feeling the love. There goes our pod list down. Yeah, way down. Well, just gum up the old hand with a little lotion and, By the way, Joe, I was surfing around on the Amazons looking for bargains.
Surfing Amazon. You know what I did? I just ordered new boxes from Amazon, so when I do my eBay shipping, it always amazes me because people are like, would you be sure to put these between two sturdy pieces of cardboard? And it's like, it hadn't occurred to me that I wouldn't ship it between them.
Actually, I was going to take a couple of pieces of tin.
I had this used Kleenex that I haven't been, I've been saving up for a good cause.
I've got some old barn wood. What I'm going to do, I'm going to lash it to the barn wood and send it like a postcard.
Oh.
Hey, that barn wood's worth money, damn it. But anyway, I was surfing around on the Amazon because I was looking for bargains and found a bargain. I found a bargain, Joe. Are you ready? Are you ready for the best bargain on Amazon?
Okay.
A 55-gallon barrel of lube. 55-gallon drum of lube.
You say you're lonely.
Now, normally, you would think...
There's a normal to this?
Normally, you would think that this would go for $2,000. You're wrong. No. It goes for, let's see here, $1,468.80. It's on sale. Normally, it's $2,000.
But this ain't normal times.
$2,500. So you're saving 41%. There are only 3 left in stock. The best thing are the reviews.
Ooh, now we're cooking.
Let's see here. As UPS discreetly unloaded my 55-gallon drum of lube, the driver accidentally spilled it into my driveway. Now any number of cars can fit into the garage. I'm a risk analyst for a major insurance firm, and when my wife and I were planning a birthday party for our 7-year-old Crispin, my mind naturally turned to liabilities. We'd settled on the theme of backyard carnival, complete with a swing set, a trampoline, a merry-go-round, and a giant slip and slide. So I carefully inspected the equipment for safety. It all seemed sound. We have a home on a bluff overlooking the ocean. As it happened, on the day of the party, our neighbors were trimming their hibiscus trees. We heard the sound of their wood chipper buzzing occasionally from the other side of our tall hedge. It was a little irritating, but not disruptive. The party started off wonderfully. A clown we'd hired made balloon animals. Crispin eagerly opened his presents, and all the children enjoyed cake and fruit punch. The weather was mild, the skies clear. It seemed a perfect day. Then we brought out the slip and slide. The problem with water slides is what we in the trade call distributed water deficiency zones, or in a layman's term, dry spots. If a child hits one of those, it can put the brakes on the fun, send them sliding down a path of medical claims, contusions, concussions, lacerations, abrasions, whiplash, backrash, and disc impaction. That's just for starters. From there, it's a slippery slope toward major litigation. To avoid even the remote possibility of such injuries, I invested in this 55-gallon drum of water-soluble personal lubricant, the idea being that the children could enjoy the slide in complete safety and then wash off in the hose before their parents came to retrieve them. With that in mind, I dipped each child into the vat before allowing them to queue up for the slide. The slip and slide itself performed admirably, as did the lubricant. That, in fact, was the problem. Due to the slight downhill gradient of our yard, the children built up so much speed that they skidded across the lawn into a retaining wall at the other end of our property with sufficient force that I had to put an end to the activity. I endeavored to roll up the mat, no easy task, as the lawn surrounding the slide was now itself lubricated, and I struggled to maintain my footing. When I looked up from my labor, I gasped for the first time at the scope of the liabilities I had unleashed. A horde of extremely well-lubricated 7-year-olds hyped up on sugar and desperate for fun. It goes from there. Joe, how many can I get for you?
Well, considering that MSP Comic-Con 2017 is right around the corner, May 20th and 21st, 2017, at the Minnesota State Fair Grandstand, and you and I both know advance tickets are on sale already at www.mcvacomiccons.com, and we also know that there's only 500 free grab bags on Saturday and 250 on Sunday. That there lubricant might go fairly well to help get you inside that there Minnesota State Fair Grandstand and grab yourself one of them free grab bags, although you may just slide right past it and impale yourself on the back of the grandstand. However, if not, I'm sorry, where were we going with this?
I don't know. There's only 3. By the way, there's only three left in stock.
Yes.
Of the 55-gallon drum of personal water-based lubricant.
Very depressing.
That means it's popular.
Maybe I should pick one up for the charity booth.
Ooh, there you go. I still think you should have the...
Good Lord, Ryder, what the hell is that? Why, that's 55-gallon drum of personal lubrication. Of course.
I say, when the roller girls are there, the girls from the roller derby, lube them up and set them loose on the cosplayers. That's why I'm not allowed at conventions anymore, isn't it?
That's why you're not allowed at the con anymore. You're an evil rat bastard.
Yeah. Ever since that idea, they haven't asked me back.
No. And that was mostly because of the girls.
Well, we don't need to go down that road.
No, I
You're
think with the
lube...
Do they have, like, podcasting lube, something that easily
No, we use silicone gel.
Good. Much more high-tech.
Yes. Because it's the tubes and wires. We have to be able to get through the tubes and wires of the internets. What kind of podcast are we doing anyway? Is this a podcast where we review lube?
It can pretty much be whatever we want.
Really?
Well, yeah, we could do a whole podcast like on being a goody two-shoes, sneaking into a friend's house, doing their laundry and cleaning the things.
No. You're going to get us sued. Or I'm going to come home and somebody with weaponry will be sitting at my porch.
Or maybe people just turn in their keys as they visit the Strode compound and say, this is about as much fun as going to see that life-size Ark in Kansas.
Maybe if I have a 55-gallon tub of lube out on the porch. You know what I think we ought to do?
What should we do?
I think we should just give up. No. I think we
It's been suggested.
Oh, are you kidding? I get the suggestion every couple of days. Corey, why don't you just give up?
Just give it up.
No. What I think we ought to do is maybe review some comics, some funny books, some comical books there, some words and pictures, some.
Because
this is a comic book podcast, right?
We are the Crazy Comics and Stories podcast.
And we're the longest-running episodic podcast in the world. And a national treasure. We are a national treasure because we review comics. Joe?
What?
May I ask you to please review a comic?
All right. First up is La La Land. No, wait. No, that's not right. Reaching back, see, we love the topical references. I can't wait for people, like when we're in podcast number 2000, to go back and they'll listen to this one, and all these topical references will come down. And La La Land? We better beflugle this. Beflugle being what races go. Well, as you know, I went to Blizzard World a couple cons ago. Well, I was going to say there was no blizzard, but, yesterday we had not only severe storms, grapefruit-sized hail, and 2 tornadoes in Minnesota, which for July, or what are we on? March 6th. That's the earliest we've ever had a tornado in Minnesota. The previous time was March 18th. And it was pretty bad. I mean, they're talking about a little bit north of us. The weird thing about it was that the trees fell down. Normally when trees have leaves, and the winds and the tornadoes hit them, they fall. But pretty much, if you're in the path of a tornado, it all fall down. Go boom. But the weird thing is it actually snowed last night. So we went from 65 degrees with thunderstorms to snow, which was very disturbing as I walked to the mailbox today. So to soothe myself, so we're coming back to comics, I decided to grab the comics that I picked up from Blizzard World and just review them. And, of course, the first one I met a gentleman, Leo Winsteadm, who does fine art and illustrations, and you can get a hold of him at leowinstead@gmail.com. And he had several comics for sale, and I chose 2 of them. And what was interesting is that one of them was from 2005, and the other one was fairly recent, 2015. So it actually kind of gave an interesting retrospective of where he started and where he's going. The first one of his books was Blue Lance Chronicles. And it starts chapter 1, Redemption, which, again, he apparently does all the art and stuff. But Justin Cermak did the story. And this is kind of a medieval type story. It's got dragons. It's tales of revenge, redemption. The art's pretty good, black and white. The big thing with it is that you can see the characters. You recognize them when they're on the screen. You don't have to go backwards and forwards to figure out who the heck you're reading about. It's a done-in-one book, although it does say chapter 1. It does kind of come back. You could probably have another book, but of the 4 he had there, he didn't revisit this particular issue. And like I said, this one was done 2005. So if you happen to run across Leo, this one I definitely recommend. Pretty good. There's a backup story, Gregor the Huntsman and Some Kind of Monster. But this one was done by somebody else, John Holtgrew, and I didn't enjoy it as much. It's kind of like a 4-issue story, though. So go forward to 2015, I picked up called The Adventures of Miramac. And this is kind of like an 1800s, late 1800s, early superhero. And I thought it was interesting because unlike some of the earlier stuff he did, this one starts out in the very first word balloon. It is the year 1896, and all along the banks of the Mississippi, the sights and sounds below gray skies speak of industry, progress, and fortune. And right away, I know where we are. The next caption tells me who I'm being introduced to. And this is all done in kind of I don't know if it's a grayscale. It's kind of tan pages. And it just looks like a kind of penciling. It fills in a lot of the details. Kind of fun. And guy basically makes a steampunk android that goes berserk, and then somebody appears, the mysterious Miramac. And of course, I didn't know what this was about because I just kind of jumped right in, and then I realized, it's kind of like an earlier superhero, almost something like you'd expect out of Alex Ross. This one was extremely well done. The story was pretty good. Again, kind of a done-in-one, and if he decided to do more of these, it might be kind of cool. I did a little smaller story called Fair Trade, where it must have been earlier pencils, kind of a story, a stowaway black fella on a ship. He kind of saves the ship and escapes for his freedom, blah, blah, blah. But definitely the Miramac story was really good. I don't see a website I can refer you to. Oh, I take that back. Very last page here. www.spacesheriff.com. You can get more information. You can check out his graphic novel and the other issues of his comics. So again, for first couple of shots, again, I just met Leo. I talked with him a bit. We exchanged cards, and I actually enjoyed the stuff he had to offer. So, and I would imagine he'll be at Comic-Con. Because all these guys we saw are pretty much local people. So you go to the website, see if it's your cup of tea, and tell them Crazy sent you. Let's send it to you, Cory. What's your first review of the day?
I don't have any indie books per se. The most indie book that I read over the weekend, because I had some of the weekend off, I know, frightening, was the 2000 AD 40th Anniversary Special. 2000 AD is a weekly comic that's been coming out in England since 1977. They recently hit issue 2000, and they now are 40 years old. How's that make you feel, Joe? 1977 was 40 years ago. How you feeling?
Where'd all these spots come from on my chest? I don't remember eating liver.
No. That's lasers for the people aiming at you.
That's good to know.
This was a good sampler. If you've never read 2000 AD and you just maybe know about some of the stuff in it, you know about Judge Dredd, maybe you know about some of the other things they've done, this is a good sampler of their most popular features. It's got a Judge Dredd story. It's got a Zombo story, Strontium Dog, Robusters. It's a really good sampler of what kind of stories are in 2000 AD. They kind of brought back some of their bigger talent. No Brian Boland, sadly. No Garth Ennis, sadly. But it was a really solid magazine size that gave you a good sample of what they do. I enjoy 2000 AD. It's one of those comics that, because it's monthly, they tend to stack up before I read them. But I'm a huge fan of Judge Dredd. Not as big as other people. You know, there are people I know who, this is their comic. This is one where if I have some extra money and I see a stack of them in a comic shop, I'm going to pick them up. This made me want to read more of them, which is probably what it's for. The Judge Dredd story was very well done. The good thing about it is one of the problems people have with 2000 AD is in England, their anthologies have always been very serialized, especially the weeklies. This, every story was done in one. So on our scale of buy, borrow, and ignore, this is a buy. It's a good way to get a good idea of what sort of things 2000 AD does, get a good idea of the British style of comics. So if you see it at the shop and you're curious about 2000 AD, this one's highly recommended. Joe?
You know, I guess I can't really use this scale because everything that I've got down I've actually bought. So it'd be kind of hypocritical for me to say, don't buy it even though I did.
Well, would you buy a second issue? Would you recommend it?
Well,
would you tell people to go out and get it?
The first one I probably will because like I said, he had a bunch of stuff and this was kind of a sampler. And it's interesting because when we've talked about this before when you go to a con, yeah, I would love to buy something from everybody, but the problem is as I'm searching through what to buy, what not to buy. First of all, guys who actually say hello is kind of a big thing. You know, if you actually talk to me, I kind of appreciate that. I'm not so willing to drop 10, 15, 20 bucks on your graphic novel because I have no idea if I'm going to like this stuff or not. Whereas in the case of the two books I previously reviewed and the one that's coming up, I dropped like $4 on each book, which is about the same I dropped for a Marvel or DC. So I'm willing to do that just to give your stuff a try and to try something new. So again, if you're going to be creative, you're going to have this wonderful graphic novel. It might help to either have a little sampler out or maybe, you know, have some cheap end stuff for those of us that aren't necessarily your fans yet that don't want to drop some major change and some bigger stuff. Case in point, the next gentleman I met, his name is Chance Wyatt. Go to chancewyatt.com, Wyatt, W-Y-A-T-T. He had a single comic called Moving Bodies. This one, kind of a science fiction type thing. It kind of visits the theme of, you know, what do you do when technology outraces what previous technology was? And, you know, these guys are going out to make contact with the people who were in, like, cryogenically frozen or whatever, and they're just trying to see what's going on. You're not really sure how things are going, but as you read the story, it becomes apparent. He starts out with a number of what I'm assuming are like emails or contacts between whoever and back. I had a tough time reading them. As in the previous books, you know, one word balloon sets us up. This was kind of like, I don't really know what's going on. And I kind of skipped over it. But the art, again, the art was good. It was easy to follow. I didn't have to back up all the time and figure out who's who. This actually reads like something you would find in like a heavy metal magazine, especially when you're not quite sure what's going on. And, you know, the gist of the story is they've checking out a previous civilization that ended up where they did via being frozen, and now that technology's caught up, they're trying to figure out what's going on. He apparently, if you go to the website, he has what they call a moving bodies reading music. So as you're reading the comic, you can get onto his website and listen to the music that he's chosen to go along with this. I didn't do that. I didn't have a chance to, but I thought that was kind of an interesting way of enhancing the comic. He also has a list in the back of his other stuff. Let's see. Eat Zone is about a fat guy who lives on a toilet and watches TV.
Oh, God.
I know. I really want that one. Princess is about a sad guy.
You see, when I think about that, it's, what would be the plot?
Well, and the other thing is what kind of music would he have? Assuming he would have some optional background
Probably
music.
Probably tuba music.
Now, of course, there's Census, which is about a sad guy who drinks too much and lives in a mobile home. I'm kidding. He lives in the moon. Planetarium is about a robot girl with a holographic hair and no clothes.
Okay,
and,
I think I found the music for the guy sitting on the toilet all day.
Oh. You know, after the podcast, I've got to go get that one. A Bright Day on the Dark Side of the Moon is about an otter with a hat. So again, if you want to check out some of these, go to chancewyatt.com. I got to tell you, I'm an instant fan of this guy. I mean, I met him, I talked with him, we exchanged business cards, so hopefully he'll listen to this here podcast. And if he really likes us, maybe he'll send us some of that Eat Zone, because I know we're both interested in checking it out. So, again, on the scale, I would say definitely go out of your way and pick this one up. His books run about $5 a pop, so it's not really out of the realm of pricing considering what comics are nowadays. Cory?
The next one I have is a first issue that came out from DC, and it's The Wildstorm. It's Warren Ellis's first issue where he is rebooting the Wildstorm universe. Now, I was never a huge Wildstorm fan. I would dip in and out. There are some books I really liked. I liked Warren Ellis's Stormwatch. And, what was the one? The Authority that came after it. I liked Sleeper, which was done by Brubaker. But for the most part, Wildstorm was yet another superhero universe. So Warren Ellis taking over, doing a revamp on that stuff, I was interested. But in a lot of ways, I think people have asked Warren Ellis to do this too much. Because reading the first issue, it reminded me of his first issue of Superpowers, and his first issue of New Universal, and his first issue of all these other things that he's kind of started and then lost interest in. Because I was not a huge Wildstorm fan, I didn't pick up a lot of the subtle references that other people have talked about. And at the end of it, I didn't care enough to know what's going to happen next, which is a huge, huge thing for me. I need to care enough to know what's going to happen next. The story is that a bigwig business guy is thrown out of a building, and a woman leaps to save him, and as she's leaping up to save him, she basically becomes encapsulated in this kind of robotic exoskeleton. And nobody is like, oh my God, people have flying suits. It was more like, oh yeah, that happened. And of course, there's a huge conspiracy. And of course, the business guy is involved in the conspiracy. And it felt so much like all of those 90s super team books where there's a mysterious conspiracy behind everything, and the heroes are being drawn together to fight this conspiracy. And it's weird because when I read Warren Ellis's Moon Knight, the first issue, I had to read the next issue, even though each issue was done in one. His Karnak, I read the first issue. Oh my God, I have to read what's next. With this, it felt so much like deja vu. It felt so much like the other superhero universes that he's tried to jumpstart that I wonder if he's just got this template in his head of, oh, well, this is how I restart a superhero universe. And on the bed, buy, borrow, or ignore. Sorry, guys, this one hits the ignore. I don't need another superhero universe. I've read the story over and over and over, and there was no hook. There was no character that I cared about. There was no plot I cared about. And the mystery, if I never read another comic that starts with a big, powerful conspiracy by a government organization.
That's already in place before you even met the heroes.
Yeah, or a large global corporation that's pulling the strings on everything in the world, I'll be a happy man. It's overplayed. It's overdone. If you can't find a new angle to it, just don't even try. So, buy, borrow, ignore. This one's an ignore. Joe, what's your next one?
The third creator I met at Blizzard World was a young lady, Clara Meath. And that's important because her website is clarameath.com. Clara, C-L-A-R-A, Meath, M-E-A-T-H. And I got to say, I'm kind of disappointed because I didn't really get a chance to talk to her. It probably would have helped a lot to know a little bit more about what she's doing. She just struck me as someone who does art, shows up at store cons, sells her wares. In the back of her book, it says that she's a comic book artist and writer in Minneapolis, holds a degree in sequential art from SCAD, Atlanta, and now, admittedly, spends most of her time working. The people that came and talked with her knew her, so they, I just kind of came in and I went around a couple times, and eventually I came in and just said, I'd like to buy one of each, which kind of surprised her, which was odd because maybe people aren't buying her stuff, but hard to say. But I thought I'd give it a try. The artwork I did see on her back stand and that she had on display looked fairly impressive. So I was looking forward to seeing what kind of thing she has. And the first one was one called Swamp Lights. Now, none of these have trademarks on them. None of them have copyrights on it. So again, I have no idea if this is early stuff, later stuff. I don't know why she chose to put these in comic form versus her other stuff. I did catch a little snippet of her conversation with somebody else saying that she's been, she spends most of the day at home doing art. So that was kind of encouraging. The first one, a lot of the stories that I read from her, she did the story, the art, the colors, and the lettering, which was kind of cool. It also, a lot of it reads heavy metal-ish. So in other words, you start out, you don't really know what's going on. Her art's very good. I never have to go back and figure out who this character is because I recognize the character as you go forward. I may not understand the name or what the character's doing, but that's as you continue to plot forward in the story, eventually it becomes clear. Not all narratives need to be that way. Like I said earlier, the one on The Adventure of Merrimack, a quick word balloon tells you, oh, here's what's going on. But again, as I read through her stuff, I just kept thinking, this is the type of things I would read in a heavy metal type magazine. All the stories are done in one. There's no continuation. First one, called Swamp Lights, was the toughest one to get into because she's kind of fast forwarding, going back. The narrative's explaining what's going on while you really don't know what's going on. By the time you get to the end of the story, it's very apparent what Swamp Lights are, who the characters are, and why the main protagonist did what she did. The second one was another short comic, The Death of a Half-Breed. This was actually in the same issue. And again, the art's very similar, has a bit of a twist ending to it. And, I enjoyed it actually pretty much. The next one was this is an actual comic called Lowermost. Now again, this one, she did the story, art, and letters, but she had another SCAD alumni do the coloring. And this one was the art didn't look as profound. I don't know if it was because she had somebody else color it. I don't know enough about the coloring process to know if it makes a big difference. Because obviously when she did Swamp Lights and it was in color, she could stop and redo whatever she wanted. Whereas when you're working with someone, they come in with their own. Well, I mean, the worst one we talk about is Vince Colletta on almost anybody's inking. Yeah. So I'm not saying the color was bad, but it was definitely a lot different from the first one. The story was okay. Again, it read. This one I don't think was as good as the first one. A little bit longer. It took me a while to go back and forth trying to figure out what was going on or why characters were the way they were. Didn't really prefer it as much. And the last one I did, she only did it's an Ashcan edition called The Throwaways. And in this case, she did she's the artist and the story editor. The writer is Ruben Romero, and the letterer was done by James Reed. And this one looks more like it came out of Comixology. Maybe it was just printed, ready to rock. It's a science fiction type story. It's in black and white, so you get a better chance of seeing what her work is like. Although, again, I don't know if she inks or if she does this on the computer or how she does her art, because, I didn't really get a chance to look at it much. And it was kind of an interesting science fiction story. I mean, the story itself is kind of, there's an invasion, and what happens is the people invading are already here. So, but it is kind of interesting the way things fall out. It was refreshing a little bit where I don't know what you call my security guard comes up to the main king and says, I suggest that we put all our things on alert and set up a defense perimeter and the person, I agree, let's do it, as opposed to, well, we really shouldn't do it, kind of a waste of money, which is almost a cliche in science fiction. So in terms of buy, borrow, or ignore, I think if I do see Clara again at one of the cons, I would probably look to see what kind of, if there's any new comics she has that's available. She does art. I might even ask her to do a commission for me. Again, without having talked to her like I was able to talk to the other two guys, I really don't know a lot, like, which one was done first, which one was done second, but I definitely recommend head to her website, again, clarameath.com, and see if it looks like it's your cup of tea, so to speak. Speaking of tea, Cory, what you got up next?
Tea, or as I call it, a cup of brown joy.
Mm-hmm.
I am getting caught up on the Monsters Unleashed crossovers, and one of them really jumped out at me.
Scared you? Do you need me to
come
hold your hand?
Do not come over.
Well, I held it last night. Oh, wait.
You came to work?
I did.
No, I
Wait a minute.
thought that was one of the clients who came and held my hand.
Yes. Cory's sleep. Next time I'll take a picture of him sleeping.
Just to frighten everybody. You put it up in the attic to scare away mice.
Me.
One of the things they're doing, though, they're having these special crossovers where it's like Champions MU #1, and the one I want to review is Doctor Strange MU #1. It's the Doctor Strange Monsters Unleashed crossover. It's written by Chip Zdarsky, who did the Howard the Duck series that recently ended, and one of the image books that I'm getting caught up on that I'll talk about in a couple of weeks when I get it all read, Sex Criminals. And it's drawn by Julian Lopez, whose work I didn't know, but it's inked by Scott Hanna, who's been around forever and ever and ever. The story is that monsters are popping up all over Earth, and the heroes are going to stop them. Doctor Strange, who has very little magic left, and is trying to do what he can to supplement that magic with his own skills, he goes to fight a monster with Googam, son of Goom.
Goom! I'm going to walk around work and yell Goom.
Well, if you do that, Thing Fang Foom will put you in his pants.
Goom!
This is a fun... it's Googam, son of Goom. Googam, son of Goom. This was a lot of fun, and it gave Googam a really cool personality, where even in the original story, he always called himself Googam, son of Goom. Well, Zdarsky has kind of taken that and said, well, he's trying to impress his father. That's why he keeps calling himself that, because his father is a big deal on the planet where they came from. So you've got that. You've got Doctor Strange dealing with the fact that magic has died, and there are only little bits and pieces, and he's trying to figure it out with big Kirby-esque monsters. This is one you could pick up. You don't need to read any other parts of the crossover. You can read it all on its own. My only issue is that the artist, and I'm going to get his name again, Julian Lopez, his stuff is uneven. On the splash page, his drawing of Fin Fang Foom is amazing. His drawing of Captain Marvel is cringeworthy. The face he does for Doctor Strange in some pages is excellent, and in others it looks like the inker's trying to fix things. The page layout is really good. He's fantastic at the monsters, but he's so uneven on the people that I think he needs either more work or he needs an inker that works with his stuff better. But you can see there are pages and panels that just pop out as being amazing, and then there are others where you go, oh, that's a mess. But all in all, a lot of crossovers, it's like, oh, you have to pick up this part and this part and this part. This is a standalone story, and on the buy, borrow, or ignore, this is a buy. Especially if you're reading the Doctor Strange. You don't need this to be reading the regular Doctor Strange series, but it really is a good way to let you know what it's like, the fact that, in the Marvel Universe, magic is dead. So why is Doctor Strange still the Sorcerer Supreme? Joe?
It gets better.
Well, not yet.
Well, in the latest issue of Doctor Strange it does, but...
Shh, quiet, I haven't read that yet.
Oh, sorry. Well, I actually am going to review something that you have read.
What?
And I'm pretty sure when we get to geeking that Cory and I are going to be geeking on the same thing. Oh, sweet bejesus. I had more graphic novels in my box than I had comic books this time. And two of them were two of my favorite. The New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis. And I was basically geeking on and on about number 1 a couple months ago. I got 2 and 3 in my box. And in the course of, I would say 3 days, I got through all of them. What's fun about it is that although I bought them as comics and I reread some of these in back when they were doing the 6-issue graphic novels, which I picked up like 3 of and then dropped. This actually covers quite a bit of territory here. Let's see. And they're throwing in some of the extra stuff. Like there was a New Avenger guest starring the Fantastic Four that starts out number 2, which originally was one of those that you give or you buy when you go to PXs on military bases. And this one apparently deals in continuity, which is why it's included, or maybe it's because Michael Brian Bendis wrote it and things like that. I was a little apprehensive about some of this because I know in the beginning with the New Avengers, it was a real solid storyline. And then Civil War happened, and everybody branched off into 2, where the New Avengers basically stuck with the ground level guys, and then I think was it the just Avengers proper were the other group. And being that this is the New Avengers, it doesn't necessarily cover that group. It doesn't really cover Civil War. But I forgot how good the stories are. They just stand in one. They kind of deal with what's going on around it. And then as you get past the Civil War, Cory, do you remember what the next crossover event was?
Let's see. After Civil War, it was Secret Invasion, right?
Yep, and they deal with that. And they also do the Illuminati books as well as the annuals and things like that. So I almost want to dig up my Civil War and my Secret Invasion just to read along with it. But the stories read really well, so even if you weren't reading along with the other ones, you can still enjoy it. And as you mentioned earlier with Hickman's books that you're rereading, by rereading this, you do understand this was all planned out. There's a reason why everything fell into place the way it did. You know, things that were ignored and dropped because of the Civil War are picked up and people realize, hey, you know, something's not going on right here. I mean, you know, Thor is dead. You know, we had the Civil War and all these other things are going on. There's a reason. Something's pulling the strings behind that. And as you get moving, you know, if you've never read the New Avengers, you definitely want to. And I prefer the book format. I'm pretty sure these are Marvel Unlimited. And, of course, the art, what's nice is they put in all the art. They put in all the covers. A lot of times there's even questions like, is the Beyonder really an Inhuman? Or was that just bullshit?
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, he was a baby cosmic cube. No,
wait a minute. All I know is when I went to his Wikipedia thing, he is alive, and he hasn't been seen since, and he had nothing to do with the last Secret Wars. So wherever he ended up, he must be in his own pocket universe doing whatever baby cube, Avenger, mutant, X-Men.
Whatever baby cubes do.
Whatever baby cubes do. I bought these, so I recommend doing it the same. Whether you pick them up in comic form, do it on Marvel Unlimited, or just hunker down and buy them like me, because I'm going to definitely pick these up as I go along. As a sidebar, how many more you got to review?
1, 2, 3.
3. Okay, well, I got 2 more. So it could work.
The next thing I'm going to review is I got the Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman, Omnibus number 1, and I finished it over the weekend. And
you just read some of this stuff. You just plow through it.
Yeah.
We've read it before, but it's so much fun to reread it. And I don't know if you have it, Corey, because you have a scary remembery. It's like I go through this stuff, and it's like, I don't remember this.
There are bits and pieces where I go, I forgot about that.
Or you pick up the little details that they were dropping way back when that you just totally missed.
Or things, like in the Fantastic Four, they're fighting the wizard, who cares? But then, later on, the wizard comes back, and you have to deal with the fact that the Fantastic Four have one of the wizard clones. I'm jumping way ahead in my review. One of the things that I like doing a big reread. Especially when someone has a long run on something. Joe's talking about doing a Bendis reread. I'm doing a Hickman reread. I started with his stuff in the Ultimate Universe. Now I'm in the Marvel Universe with his Fantastic Four, which actually started with a Dark Realm story about Norman Osborn showing up to try and take all of Fantastic Four's equipment. And reading that miniseries, it really felt like, that's self-contained. But it wasn't. And these other things, as you read, you realize he sowed the seeds for all of this stuff back in his time doing the Ultimate Universe and on Secret Warriors. But it's starting to come through a little more now. We're talking about the little details. Joe, do you remember, what is it? In the Guardians of the Galaxy, the little break in the universe that led to the Cancerverse.
I don't. I
think it was called, I don't remember exactly what it was called. I would have to go look. But it first shows up here. Reed discovers it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, over in the Marvel Cosmic books, that's where they pick up on it. So it's like, okay, so they're putting stuff in for everything. The art is, it actually goes through a few people, but they all have kind of that, I don't want to call it realistic style, but it's very much a John Buscema way of drawing the Fantastic Four, where it's not the Kirby bombast as much, it's more, this is what it would look like if it were really happening. Not really photorealistic, but more toned down. And I think it works better for the huge scientific ideas that Hickman is putting in this. This is probably one of the best runs of the Fantastic Four. And I'm glad it's collected, and I'm glad I'm reading it again, because even though the old-time readers didn't much care for it, as I'm reading it, this is what the Fantastic Four should be now. It should be, they've got this long history, let's play with it. Let's do things with it. Let's grow it. Let's throw in new ideas and new concepts. And in the buy, borrow, or ignore, this is a buy. If you have not read Hickman's Fantastic Four, this is a run to read. Not just because it leads to his Avengers run and Secret Wars, but because this is probably one of the best versions of the Fantastic Four that's been done. Even though it's very, very Reed-centric. If Reed Richards is your favorite member of the Fantastic Four, you're going to be cheering for this, because this first omnibus is all about Reed Richards.
The Council of Reeds?
Not just the Council of Reeds, but Reed making choices. He's the one driving the story. And it's almost as if the other characters, and the cast grows exponentially, the other characters are reacting to what Reed does. So this is definitely a buy. The omnibus is sold out. This is one that I picked up a couple of years ago. And I looked online, and it's going for like $200 and $300. Mm-hmm. But the trade paperbacks are still available, and it's on Marvel Unlimited. So if you got Marvel Unlimited, just start with Dark Reign, Fantastic Four Dark Reign #1, and move forward from there. Joe?
The next one I read is also an oldie but a goodie. I picked it up at Blizzard World for 70% off. So if you look around...
70% off?
I know. X-Men,
Sweet Christmas.
Avengers, Maximum Security.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this
was one of those crossovers that nobody cared about, but it was by Kurt Busiek.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of interesting because, let's see, I don't know when the heck all this stuff came out. It reprints Maximum Security, Dangerous Planet, the miniseries 1 to 3, and all the crossovers. And a weird mix goes through Captain America, Thor, Uncanny X-Men, Bishop, The Last X-Man, Iron Man, Avengers, Gambit, X-Men, and X-Men Unlimited. And they put it all in order, so it reads fairly well. Essentially, it starts off on the, Shi'ar planet, where everybody's yelling in the Shi'ar intergalactically renowned council planet, Salandiar. And, of course, first time we see it, I believe, is when they put the X-Men on trial for what Jean Grey did to the broccoli people.
Again?
And
how many times are they going to put her on trial for that?
No, they're not. She's not on trial here. That's the first place we see it.
Oh, okay.
And then we also see it in the or was it when Reed Richards was on trial for saving Galactus?
Well, yeah, there was
actually that was the first time we saw it, I should say. But anyways, the Skrulls are pissed off because the humans keep interfering with the Skrulls. Never mind, they kind of started the first fight way back in FF1, and even earlier than that. But they harbored the Dark Phoenix. They defiled the Celestials. They respect no boundaries, no governments, the right of self-determination. Blah, blah, blah.
Earth sucks.
Yeah, so basically everybody decides in a very political fashion that echoes of today's that Earth is bad, okay, and we're going to do something about it. So what they do is they take all of the bad guys and basically make Earth a penal colony. Although there's a problem here because they also do something else weird involving Eagle, the living planet. I don't know if I want to put up spoiler warnings for a story that's, 2 decades old. But somebody sent a spore that's slowly transforming Earth into Ego, the living planet. The crossover was kind of interesting. I mean, as you read through it, everything goes together. What's interesting about this is that you need to know, hang on, I got to find my notes here because there's different continuity going on here. You need to know certain things. For example, like Cyclops is dead.
Again?
Got better. Well, then he died again. Charles Xavier is alive.
Again?
Got worse. Jean Grey is... No, I'm not even going to go there. U.S. agents around. He's a bit of an asshole.
He's always been a jerk.
I'm trying to find the big... Let's see. Who's Beta Ray Bill's around? Thor, Moon Knight, Starfire, Hercules, Triathlon. If you don't know who he is, go look him up.
I remember Triathlon.
You read Kurt Busiek's run. Anyways, they're all being manipulated. You find out by the end who's been doing it. That person gets a smackdown. We find out Quasar, he's alive, although I think he dies. Whatever. It's a fun little book. Marvel does a good job of reprinting these storylines. They also do a good job of saying, which issues they're in. They give the covers and everything. The only thing that they don't do a good job on is here's the Marvel Universe as it is now. And there's plenty of referring to other storylines. There's plenty things saying, well, this happened in this crossover, this happened in this issue. It's something I touched on a while back, a difference between DC and Marvel, where Marvel's crossovers kind of flow through and in and out of each other. We see that when I talked about the Hickman run. Corey's going to see that. I saw it in the Buzak, Bendis, sorry. And same thing going on here. But sometimes it'd be nice if, especially when you're publishing a book of something that was published years ago, to just put a little header in the beginning Or just like, here's where we are, here's what's going on, and here's what you need to know going into it. Or not. I mean, maybe just say, you can even put a thing, if you need to know more, go to Marvel Unlimited. But, again, I bought this for 70% off, so if you're looking for just a good old-fashioned superhero team-up crossover the way they used to be, this is definitely one to buy, or go to Marvel Unlimited and borrow. Corey?
The next book that I read and wanted to talk about, I got kind of caught up on Mighty Thor. I read Mighty Thor, issues 5 through 10.
Sorry to hear your Mighty Thor. Did you get hurt?
Yeah, somebody went into where I was working and held my hand all night.
Yeah.
Mighty Thor is the
to hold your hand. She wanted to hold your feet.
No, that's someone else. It was one of the clients.
That's who I got. She showed me where you were.
Ooh.
Oh, what fresh hell is this?
Mighty Thor is the comic where Jane Foster is now Thor, and it's by Jason Aaron, who's done a great job on Thor. One of the things I like about his run on Thor is he's playing with stuff that the Marvel Universe has had, but he's also introducing new antagonists into Thor by reaching into the far past. Thor is a god who's been around forever and ever and ever, so he's reaching back and going, oh, well, here's this Viking who made a deal with Loki 1,500 years ago. And we haven't seen him because, hey, God's lives are very, very long. You've got the head of Roxxon is a Minotaur who is, he's made a deal with Malekith to get oil and coal from some of the 9 realms.
Which is really stupid because he could just come here and we got plenty of the stuff.
Well, Roxxon wants it all.
Of course.
But out of all the Marvel books, this one is the one that I'm looking forward to where they're going with it the most. Because you've got the Unworthy Thor, which should be showing up on Marvel Unlimited soon. You've got Mighty Thor, which is really building this war between all of the 7 realms. And it feels like that Jason Aaron is building toward this huge conclusion. And his run on Thor's been going for a few years now, and it's always kept its steam. He's really kind of made Thor into a Viking hero again, rather than just, he's another superhero. He's really made the whole idea of Thor, mixing it with fantasy and Nordic mythology, made it interesting. And for the longest time, let's remember, Thor was canceled and gone for years because no one could come up with a way to make him interesting again. And Jason Aaron's done a really good job on it. Again, on the buy, borrow, ignore, this is a buy. When they finally do Jason Aaron's Thor run as an omnibus, I'm going to buy it. Joe?
He is all over it. The last one I have, again,
like
is
Oprah on a canned ham.
See, it's fun. The last one I'm reviewing is one that I've been blabbing on and on about for at least 5 volumes, because this is the New Teen Titans Volume 6. Again, a run from my golden age of comics when it was done by Marv Wolfman, and George Perez was doing the art, and everybody was happy, and the book was selling in X-Men realm territory. This one covers issues 35 to 41, and also includes a crossover with Batman and the Outsiders, where Batman decided to quit Justice League and have a bunch of his own. So you get a brief run, or brief issue where Jim Aparo was doing the art, and it was a lot of fun. Just a fun time with the characters. They spend a lot of time characterizing. Everybody's got their own internal struggles going on. At this point in time, towards the end of the run, this is where Dick Grayson gives up being Robin, and Wally West gives up being Kid Flash. We find out origin story of just who is Donna Troy. Tara is still in here and alive, and things get kind of muddled because she finally meets her brother, who is part of the Outsiders, and it all boils up into the epic final showdown with Brother Blood. These are the type of issues, if Warner Brothers or Time Warner or DC put online, I would buy DC online just to be able to reread these things. And it's been so long since I've read them that a lot of this stuff I've totally blanked on. You know, it's like I'm rereading it and I just totally forgot. The art's gorgeous. I mean, how else can you can't go wrong when you got George Perez doing the art. And again, I'm just waiting for volume 7 because, I believe let's see, where are we? Issue 41. Next one should have the actual wedding between Donna Troy and whoever the hack is she married. Obviously not worthy of her. But it's one of the best wedding issues of all time, you know, I talk about occasionally because I'll dig it up in my collection or I'll find a copy for 50 cents and just reread it. 50 cents. It's what twice happened. I'll pay you a quarter for it. So another one that I definitely went out and I bought, unless you want to go dig them up through the back issues. But who's got time for that? Cory?
I don't.
I don't. Definitely not.
The last book I'm going to review in my box came Cerebus in Hell, volumes 1 and 2. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not this.
Me neither.
I heard that Dave Sim had injured his drawing hand and could no longer draw. And what this is Dave Sim taking Dante's Inferno and woodcuts from a specific volume and kind of dropping Cerebus into the story. And I've read the first 2 issues, and Joe, I am still unsure if I like it or not.
I initially didn't like it, but then as I started to, I let it sit and I came back to it and I actually enjoyed it a little bit more.
That's probably what I'm going to have to do, because it's not like, for me, Cerebus from like issue 210 to 280 something is just unreadable. It's just unreadable because it's just people. It's, okay, I'm going to do a story about Woody Allen. I'm going to do a story about Oscar Wilde. I'm going to do a story about F. Scott Fitzgerald. And it didn't work for me. This is one where he's not pounding on the kind of philosophical stuff that he did in Cerebus when it got tedious. But man, it's weird. It's just weird. And to be honest, if you are not someone who's read Cerebus, don't try.
Don't start with this. No.
Don't even try. On the buy, borrow, ignore, you can't ignore Dave Sim, because Dave Sim is one of the most interesting, creative people to ever work in comics. Whether you agree with him or not, and I don't, he's still an amazing cartoonist, and what he has done with this book is interesting. And I'm saying that the way a Minnesotan says interesting. It's like, oh, that's interesting.
Interesting.
I'm going to get all 4 issues, and I think, like Joe said, I'm going to give it a read through once, then I'm going to let it sit for a while, and then I'll go and I'll read it again, because it was definitely not what I expected. Joe, what did you think of Cerebus in Hell?
Well, the problem was when I had ordered the first 2 issues, and then I read the first issue, and I neglected to reorder or order issue 3 and 4, and now I got to go back and reorder issue 3 and 4, or just pick them up at the source, one way or the other. But
yeah, they're going to be around.
Oh yeah.
Well, that leads us to the end of our reviews, unless, Joe, you've got something else you want to review.
Nope, I'm pretty much full of it. Yeah.
Well, you know who's not full of it?
Who?
These guys, our sponsors. That's right, here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest-rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, KRAYZ, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Graze, put in the code CORYS3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by. Okay, it's just a place that will record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks.
Cool.
After we're done with our sponsors, we asked Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Well, I thought instead of talking comics, I would take a quick look at 5 non-comic book things that I've sold. And I don't put a lot of non-comic book things on, so it was kind of an interesting list. Some of the things.
Sell your pants?
Well, I'm always trying to sell something, and clothes is something that people sell on eBay. I haven't gotten to it yet, but every so often, Chris or Holly will have something that like she had some designer purse a friend gave. I looked the sucker up, and it's like, holy cow, these things run for $300. And they just gave it to you? Yeah. Did they want it back? No. Do you want it? No. Does Mom want it? No. Let's eBay that sucker. And that's pretty much how most eBay that sumbitch. And that's pretty much how most of the things that I get go. So, with that in mind, in a second while I find my.
Let me whip this out.
Cory, do you remember when we played Nobody Loves the Hulk on the podcast?
Why, yes, I do.
Yep. Well, I decided to sell the 45 RPM with
Oh.
Scoops. Yeah, I just figured, we've got it immortalized in our podcast. It's on the YouTubes if you want it. And I'm sure sooner or later somebody will reissue it, just for the hell of it.
I doubt they'll reissue it.
So I actually put the actual record on eBay and sold it. Cory, do you remember X-Men #1 that Jim Lee did?
Yes.
Do you remember what the incentive was for
gold?
Gold, but not Gold Comics. Because remember, I'm talking this here about non-comic things that I've sold.
Wasn't there kind of a plaque of some kind?
It was really weird. It was a comic book size hologram of, one was gold, one was silver, of the art that Jim Lee did the cover. If you remember the covers,
yeah,
they
I
all
remember.
Connected, or you bought the one that had the gatefold cover. And by ordering X amount of this, you got the silver hologram. By ordering X amount, you got the gold one. And while the whole thing was comic book size, the actual holograms were more card size. So, and I had somewhere I acquired a gold and silver hologram, so I ended up I eBayed them.
Well, good for you.
I sold a Sailor Moon collectible card game 2-player starter deck from Dart in 2000. This one, actually, I had a few of these left over from Hot Comics, and I donated them. They came back. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just put them on the eBays, and they sold over time. I still have some of the collector packs for you Sailor Moon fans. Cory, you remember that, what was that character's name? Alfred E. Newman?
Yes.
Well, I had an Alfred E. Newman holiday action figure from 1999, DC Direct. Yeah, it was one of those things that I had sold in the shop, big store that is, and I must have just hung on for one just for the heck of it. Thinking, oh, it's a Christmas type thing. I'll probably take it out and put it on display with my, Hot Wheel holiday collectibles, and of course the Mr. Hanky, the Christmas action figure. But this one, for some reason, I never opened. I was actually an action figure. I don't have a lot of action. I should say I have a lot of action figures. I just haven't put a lot of them. And of course, we can't go by without mention of Cory's favorite nostalgic property, the Transformers. Cory, did you go to BotCon back in 1999 when it was here in St. Paul, Minnesota?
No.
Well, apparently I did.
You don't remember, but you
actually, I do remember. I just remember going, and it was a little disappointed because there were not a lot of classic vintage Transformers. A lot of new stuff, a lot of posters, prints. I think some of the voice actors were there. I did at the time. I don't think I hung around to meet them. But what's interesting is that they did have two exclusive Transformers that actually had you had to buy them at the con, and they actually said, from BotCon 99, July 16th through 18th, St. Paul, Minnesota. Thought that was kind of interesting. I've since sold those on, I don't know if I sold them at Crazy Comics or eBay or whatever, but the programming guide was interesting because they had a list of everybody who had gone to the BotCon, and my name was in it. And I was thinking, maybe I might want to keep this. And then I thought, nah, I'll remember I was there. So if you are a Transformers fan and you do get to go to a BotCon, they always have really neat exclusives. And of course, if you put in BotCon on the eBays, you could probably find all the cool exclusives there. Or you could just put in Crazy, Krayz, and see what kind of funness I'm putting up today. I've been wading through the back issues I've got. Well, I guess they're my issues, my vast accumulation of crap. And it's kind of interesting as you go through because occasionally you run across stuff. Most of it's, $1, $2 to $5, and I'm probably not even going to bother. Other things are, oh, sweet bejesus, this thing's worth $200. Woohoo! And of course, I like to put them cheap because I'm a cheap person. I buy cheap and I sell cheap. And your advantage is if you buy something, let me know and I'll toss in something for my vast accumulation of crap and a key to the Strode compound. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Damn it. I'm going to have to change the locks one of these days.
Yeah, very true. But don't worry, I imagine by the 300th episode we'll have enough keys out there where we can just all come and have a party at your place. Good, because I won't be here. Oh, good. Then you could just send me questions at crazycomics@gmail.com, and then we'll just ask them around Robin at Cory's Strode compound. We may even have special guests. Maybe we'll do the laundry, and we'll clean the apartment, and I know the cooking area is clean because you cook a lot. I don't have Joe, I don't have an apartment. I have no idea what you're talking about. Keys to the Strode compound. You can call it detached mobile living, apartment, or home. But tonight, somebody will be there holding your hand. And if it's not you, it'll be somebody else's hand. Well, I'm glad somebody's holding hands. You know what I like better than holding hands, Joe? The end of the show? Well, that too. Freaking and geeking, Joe! What are you freaking on? Everybody's sick. Yes. I'm not just talking oh my God, yes. I'm not just talking my poor daughter who's now recovering, but even my poor wife who had to go into the doctor today and hopefully is recovering. I'm scared to death that I'm going to get sick because we got people, of course, at work that, I've talked in the past about how myopic my work is. Oh, we're going to give you sick days, but anytime you take one, we're going to ask you why you took one. And it led to such beautiful things as being asked, why'd you take a sick day? Well, my mother-in-law who died 2 days ago, Her body's not even in the ground and you're harassing me. Or the time I was out a week for pink eye and then came back, Joe, why were you gone for a week? Derp. So anyways, and there's people that are coming back. They're sitting behind me or they're in the room, they're hacking up their lungs and you're like, oh man, I just don't even want to be here. The only real advice you can do is just, keep your hands away from your mouth, your nose, your eyes, wash them before you eat or before you do anything else. Unfortunately, I think whatever's going around is airborne, so really I don't need these people that are hacking behind me. Not much you're going to be able to do about it. I did find Champions #2 based on Cory's recommendations. He said, you got to read Champions. So I'd ordered 2 and 3 and then I went to the source and got 1, 4, and 5 and now I can't find issues 2 and 3, but I found issue 2. Still do not know where issue #3 is. I know I got it because it said so on my discount comic book service invoice, but I don't know where it is. So who knows? Maybe I'll read it. Maybe I'll like it.
Maybe.
That's pretty much it. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Well, the first is a small freaking, I guess, and that is writer Jeff Lemire is going to be leaving Marvel at the end of his 2-year contract. He's currently writing Moon Knight and doing an amazing job on Moon Knight. He's also done stuff for the X-Men. He's done a lot of good stuff. He's going back to do creator-owned stuff, which is fine, but it's another one of these things where these people who are doing some really great work at Marvel are moving off to do creator-owned stuff. Good for them, they're doing creator-owned stuff, but bad for Marvel in that it's kind of a talent exodus. And I've heard rumors that Marvel is throwing some big money contracts at people to try and get them to come back. So I hope they actually do that. The second thing I'm freaking on is an old-fashioned Cory rant.
Oh, good. Hang on. Let me sit down. Got my chips ready. Got a drink.
Okay.
All right. I'm ready.
Joe, do you have the Marvel solicitation?
Right.
The little magazine that comes with previews.
I've gone through it.
Okay. Did you see they're doing some villain variant covers for Secret Empire?
Not particularly.
Where they're going to have villains who are dressed in Hydra gear on some of these special variant covers.
Why not?
Because Magneto, who was in the Holocaust, which would make him in his 80s now, so Marvel, you really probably should be updating that soon.
Well, remember, he was sent back as a kid, and then they redid it in Infinity Formula and Gauntlets.
Quit tying your characters that are going to last for 60 years to actual historical events.
Yeah,
they have him in a Hydra costume in one of these variant covers.
Hydra.
And people lost their collective shit.
Nothing like getting outrage over a fictional character.
Not just that, it's a variant cover. No, Magneto wouldn't join Hydra because Hydra's a bunch of Nazis. Okay, first off, it's a cover. It's a drawing. It's just, hey, we're going to take these villains and we're going to put them in Hydra outfits. And it doesn't mean it's part of a story plot. It doesn't mean that we're changing the character. It doesn't mean that we're disrespecting the Holocaust. No, it's a special cover. And people, the whole thing around the whole Captain America story that's led to Secret Empire, which is what I told people when the first issue came out. I was right, by the way. I was right.
Mm-hmm.
People are still, I still don't like the Cap's a Nazi. Oh, my God. It's a story that's built up to this point. It's a big crossover. And at the end of it, when Captain America is back and he punches the Red Skull in the face, it's going to be awesome because he's going to be really mad at the Red Skull. He's just going to punch him in the face. The hero has to go to their lowest point where all hope is lost for the triumph to be that big. I don't get why people are so psychotic about this. Hydra's been around forever, And yes, the Red Skull's in charge of it now, and they've always kind of been, even back in the 60s, Marvel tried to pull it away from actual Nazism to make it, no, they're like Smersh and the bad guys in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. They're just a big, bad, evil organization like Cobra. And people just can't give it up. They can't give it up because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. Look, I admit that I'm wrong all the time.
Yes, and you're wrong for doing it.
That's a logical conundrum that I can't get out of.
I know.
But it's okay to admit you were wrong. It's okay to go, oh, gosh, I was wrong. It is just a story. And, oh, gee, they have planned it for like 4 years. Just like they did Siege, just like they did Secret Invasion, just like they did Civil War, just like they did all of these big crossovers, just like they did World War Hulk. I don't get why people are so invested in, this is terrible and Marvel is evil for doing it. Look, you don't like it? Go read DC. You don't like it? Go read something else. No one's put a gun to your head and said, God damn it, you're going to read this Captain America story or your brains will be all over the floor. If you don't like it, don't read it. Do like it, read it. If you don't know what the hell's going on, but you feel like you need to have an opinion, shut up! Joe, what are you geeking on?
Hang on a second. My computer froze up.
Your computer froze because I was just that angry.
It was very moving. Attract me like no other lover. All right. What am I geeking on? Well, Michael Kingston has a Kickstarter for Headlocked the Hard Way, which is the next chapter in the gritty coming-of-age wrestling drama with stories by Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Cody Rhodes, Omega, Jerry Lawler's doing the cover. He, as of this podcast, we're recording it on a drop on a Monday, he's at about $13,000 of a $20,000 goal.
Holy cow.
I've been a fan of Headlocked from the beginning. I somewhere in my vast accumulation of crap, I know I've got issues 1, 2, and 4 of whatever the original miniseries was, or I just know I'm missing one. So when I heard he was doing this, we've actually reached out. We're going to try to get him on this here show, I hope, because he's been looking to try to promote this thing, and I know he went to a Comic-Con, and he's done all sorts of other things. So what I done did, and now I can't find it, when I went to their Kickstarter, and it's how do you get to a Kickstarter? Do you just type in Headlocked and that you find it, or
we'll have the link in the show notes.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it here. So I backed Kickstarter at a $95 level, which gives me 4 Kickstarter exclusive Headlock collected editions signed by the King and Mike, and and then of course it gives you a bunch of other things. You get like the digital preview book. Ooh, my name's going to be featured on a special thank you page. Yeah, I like that. You see how much it meant to me in BotCon. And I get an exclusive backer update. Now, like most good Kickstarters, it's got retailer things. You can go and just do a $1 pledge. You can do a $500 pledge if you want to be a starring role and have your likeness used in a major character that'll appear in Headlock for $500. And if I had, never mind, 3 people did it already. You see how fast this thing's going?
Too late.
Too late.
It's over, Johnny.
It's
over.
If you like it, check it out. Go to Kickstarter. And like I said, Mike, if you're listening, give us a call because we definitely want to have you on the podcast. Somebody we probably won't have on the podcast, although we'd love to, will be
Me?
Hugh Jackman.
Oh.
And as you know, he's in his final Wolverine movie of the weekend, Logan. And I was able to go off and see it. Corey, have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Okay, well, I won't talk too many spoilers, but people, it's rated R. Don't bring your kids to it. unless you're sure they can handle it. And I'm not talking your 6-year-old. Very violent. There's some boobies. There's some Effenheimers. This is basically Wolverine the way let's just say it's not a code-approved Wolverine, but it's the way we expect Wolverine to be. You knew it was good when they had the trailers. There was the approved one and then the restricted one. The restricted one apparently had Wolverine putting his claws through somebody's head. So that gives you an idea of what's going on. You probably have seen the trailers somewhere along. Just a tremendous movie. When Cory sees it in a week or so, we'll talk about it and do a little bit more. But a fitting end to the X-Men franchise, or maybe a very clever beginning. Who knows? The last thing I'm geeking on, if you are playing Facebook games and you happen to be playing Train Station, let me know. I'd like to get some trading partners in here. I like trains. Cory, what are you geeking on?
I still watch the show Comic Book Men. They've calmed it down from the early years of, hey, we're going to do some wacky stuff. And now it's more just people coming in the shop. Of course, now it's, okay, here's the actress who plays Talia al Ghul coming in to buy the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul, sort of thing. But on this week's show, somebody brought in Pogs.
Pogs!
They brought in a whole big mess of Pogs. Some of them were rare and collectible, and they asked $50 for them.
What?
How much do you think they got?
$29.95.
$12. And that was just because they wanted to play with the Pogs at the counter. One guy said, I'll give $6 for them. Another said, no, I'll give $6 too. So, Pogs are coming back, Joe. They're coming back.
They're coming back. They're making a comeback right there in Red Bank, New Jersey.
I actually looked through previews. Nope, no Pogs available in previews. Sorry.
Hang on. Let me go to the venerable eBay. Pogs! There's 2,393 Pogs. And allow me to go with highest price first. Beetle Pogs. Oh, those are outlaws. So,
and how much are those?
Oh, guy thinks they're worth $12,000. Lucky Apple's not all over them.
Yeah.
Somebody's got 8 full boxes of Star Wars Topps Pogs.
Ooh.
Unopened for $400.
I'll give you $5 for them.
See, now here's the case. Like somebody says, a large lot of Disney Pogs. I know for a fact Disney did not license Pogs in the United States. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these. Oh, here we go. Here's the first one that actually says Pogs. Batman Forever unopened box for $150.
Didn't they have a machine where I seem to remember there was something where you could make your own Pogs.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually have one somewhere of Dana. I went through and she had to have been maybe 4 or something, and we had gone through Mall of America, and one of the kiosk guys said, "Well, make a picture, we'll put it in the Pog." So, and of course, the ultimate Pog was on The Simpsons, the Steve Allen Pog. Behold, the ultimate Pog. So, and all I remember is, our good buddy Nick, last Pog thing I ever sold was 2 things of DC comic Pogs. And he bought them. He says, you know what's going to happen if these kids who are playing Pogs now are going to be our age and they get disposable income, and then they'll start going backwards and get that nostalgia and want to buy them.
Well, it ain't happened yet.
Well, geez. $160.
Yeah, I doubt anybody's buying them.
No, they're there.
Yeah, they're there. The next thing, are you looking through the previews?
Pogs!
No.
Sorry, you got me all excited now.
I didn't see any Pogs, but I did see the Thor Omnibus number 3, which reprints the end of Kirby's run on Thor. So that's really kind of the last of the Silver Age Kirby runs to be reprinted in an omnibus. And getting my hands on that. I think there's probably, they could one of the things they could probably do is take up the kind of the miscellaneous little series he did, like Inhumans and stuff like that, and maybe collect those into an omnibus later on, but I doubt they'll do that. Speaking of omnibuses, with the Marvel dumping all those omnibuses and some pricing errors by Amazon, I got a big old stack of omnibuses. I've now bought 14 omnibuses in the last month.
So when those tornadoes come and hit that old trailer park in Chaska, Cory's trailer will be sitting mighty pretty.
One of the ones I got today is probably one of the thickest, even though it's not got the most pages, which means that DC's using better paper. The Brave and the Bold Bronze Age Omnibus, which on the back goes for $125. They had it for $40 on Amazon because somebody screwed up, and I ordered it before they fixed it. This reprints the Brave and the Bold team-ups from the Silver Age, starting with issue, 74, and going up through issue 109. You've got all of the Neil Adams stuff. You got some Ross Andru and Mike Esposito, and you've got where it starts into the Jim Aparo. And Jim Aparo, I think, had the longest run on this. I think he pretty much from like issue 103, 104 up. This was where he kind of became known for his Batman work. And I love Jim Aparo's Batman.
Yes.
And so I got me a big old stack of omnibuses. And I, remember that big bonus I got from the group home that was 10 times bigger than my normal bonus?
Mm-hmm.
I've now spent half of it on omnibuses. So, yeah. And then the last thing I'm geeking on, Joe, what is Cory's favorite comic book series ever? One that he has a tattoo of?
Grendel, of course.
No.
What? You don't have a Hunter Rose?
Yes, but what's the other one?
Oh.
First tattoo I got.
Mage.
Mage 3 was announced at Emerald City Comic Con. 18 years since Mage 2 ended, they have announced Mage 3. Matt Wagner has announced Mage 3, The Hero Denied. This year, we got Twin Peaks back, we're getting Mage back, we're getting Mystery Science Theater 3000 back, I may be going to Amsterdam. This could be the most awesome year in history. There may be so much awesomeness that will have to be spread out over like 3 or 4 years because there's just too much awesome in 1 year. Plus all these omnibuses. I want to get them read by the end of the year. That means this year may have to spread out even more. If you have not read Mage, that's okay. They're going to be reprinting Mage in trade paperbacks and hardcovers. Mage 1 and 2. It is the story of King Arthur in modern times as seen through the lens of Matt Wagner's life. And the first miniseries is probably my favorite miniseries ever. The second one, not as good, still amazing, but Matt Wagner's art, he'd gotten so much better with his art that it was just phenomenal. And I've been reading his stuff at Dynamite. He's doing a lot of The Shadow, to the point where he did a miniseries that I've ordered the trade paperback for called The Death of Margot Lane. And every Sunday he would reprint them on Facebook, the pages he was working on. And it's just so beautiful that I would look at him and go, oh, when he finally comes back to Mage, it's going to be amazing looking. Well, he's coming back to Mage, and it's going to be from Image, and I'm a happy, happy fanboy. I only have 2 tattoos, one of Grendel and one of Mage. And I actually told one of my friends that, and they were surprised. They didn't know I had tattoos. They said, you don't seem like the kind of person who would have tattoos. But I've got those. Joe, do you have any tattoos?
I have scars from various operations. I'm quite good, thank you.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about comic books, and It was 99% comic books and 1% a 55-gallon tub of lube for over an hour and a half. So, as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Speaking of lube, what does the sign at an out-of-business brothel say? Beat it! We're closed! Hit my music!